the entire narrative right now is to say the economy is bad and all these kinds of things, and there's not pushback to say the economy is not bad. The economy is doing just fine. There are areas in the economy that needs fixing, and the truth of the matter, Build Back Better would have fixed a lot of it, but because of two evil Democratic senators and the entire evil Republican Senate, it was not able to be realized, and because of that, we will have many starving children. We will have many people that be living in dire straits. That's a fact. The evilness of two Democratic senators and all Republican senators are putting, and all but 10 Republican Congress people are putting a lot of hurt on a lot of people. And I want to talk about how I'm calling this evil and how I'm calling these other things out. And the reason I want to start is I have a message for Democrats that I want to tell in a minute. But anyhow, let's listen to what Furman has to say, this economist, on Biden's economy, and then we'll take it on the other side. Because this economist is not going to do what the others do. He's just going to talk a matter of fact. This is how things are. Check this out. We'll take it on the other side.
The first year of the Biden economy has outpaced every single prediction from every single corner, from the government to private banks and Wall Street, about how fast American growth could recover. It blew through all the estimates, growing at its fastest pace since 1984. It amounts to one of the greatest macroeconomic policy success stories in a generation, and it's currently under attack from right-wing politicians and media and getting drowned out by the angst of high prices, but it is there. Jason, you were there dealing with the difficulty of the last time a Democratic president was sworn into office with the country in the midst of crisis and huge economic challenges. And I think you have the scars to show for it because of the very difficult job that you all inherited in the Obama administration. What would you say, how would you characterize what's the policy grade you give the macroeconomic and fiscal response this time around?
I'm glad that we've seen such a big response. There's two differences between this experience and the experience we had before. The first is this was in some ways like a natural disaster that hit. Mm-hmm. It's not all the way gone away, but it's somewhat gone away. The second is our policy response was too small. I think this one erred on the side of being too large, but I'm glad when I see the economic growth that you just showed your viewers.
Yeah, I guess there's a little bit of this sort of Goldilocks question, and the question is if you're going to miss, in what direction. And you could have a situation in which prices are low and inflation is low, and we've got unemployment at 7%. At which point everyone would be complaining about unemployment, obviously, and not about inflation. But it seems to me like this is the better problem to have, which is part of the key, my understanding of the macroeconomic targeting that happened here.
Oh, look, yes, I'd much rather have a low unemployment rate and a high inflation rate than the opposite. Absolutely. We can debate, if you went back in time, could you have done something better? Should the Fed be doing something different? They're starting to change what they're doing. So I don't think there is, zero constraint on what you do. I don't think the more the better is always true. There is a Goldilocks part of it. But big picture, 3.9% unemployment, 5.5% growth this past year. That's really, really impressive.
Yes, that is really, really impressive. A 5-point-something% growth rate. Everybody would have been screaming. If that had happened under El Señor Donald Trump, he would be talking about how high the stock market was, how great the growth is, and not only that, he would have said, since Ronald Reagan, there has never been ever an economy like this. And it shouldn't have been since Ronald Reagan, it would have been since Bill Clinton, because Bill Clinton had a bigger economy than Ronald Reagan. Bill Clinton, I wrote this in my book as I see it, to show you how the media continues to play into the right. If you take a look at Ronald Reagan's economies and deficits, it's a mess. If you take a look at Clinton's economy and deficit, it looks great. Clinton had many more people employed, more people got jobs under Clinton than under Reagan. Would you know that? No, nobody talks about it. They talk about the Reagan miracle. Not only that, Clinton actually balanced the budget. Clinton actually balanced the budget. Reagan continued to explode the budget till he had to have the largest tax increase in American history. Do you ever hear that? No, because they talk tax cut, and they say all these things. But what they actually do has little to do with their narrative, with their talk. But if they talk loud enough and the media, instead of doing their homework, tell the truth, or if the media won't get scared that telling the truth get them into trouble, you know, again, I wrote all of that in my book. As I see it, class warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. What we had under Reagan was a mirage. Under Clinton, we actually balanced the budget. Clinton had the tax increase that he placed, a broad-based tax increase, right? Not one Republican voted for it. I wrote this in the book as well. And they all said the economy was going to go south. The opposite occurred. And we know from a macroeconomic reason, from a Keynesian economic reason, why his economy zoomed and why the budget went to zero. Actually, it went into surplus under Clinton. You don't hear that. Nobody hears that. Anytime they hear Clinton, they hear Monica Lewinsky. They don't hear that he had one of the best economies economists for a capitalist system, that is, right? You don't hear that. But that is what happens. Look at the numbers. Folks, if you're on YouTube, please go ahead and give us that thumbs up. We need that, as well as click that join button. But anyhow, so folks, remember that. Clinton had the best economy. And not only that, remember also that if you take a look for the last 100 years, the economy grows bigger and better under Democratic presidents than under Republican presidents. You don't have to take my word for it. Look it up. It's 3-point-something% in the aggregate on average, including depressions, versus 2-point-something%. A big 50% difference in economic growth as Democrat versus Republican. These are facts. You don't hear the media saying that. They would have you believe that, and that's why many Americans think, the Republicans are more fiscally responsible. The Republicans are fiscally irresponsible because they're not interested in cutting spending for the big guys. They're interested in cutting welfare and all of that. But welfare and all those things are peanuts. The big money is defense. The big money is in those big price areas. Things like, WIC, milk for kids, a little bit of food stamps. That's peanuts. But they can give you a visual. They can show you that they can, when they want to scare Americans, they can go ahead and say, look at those fat black women going with those food stamps. Look at that fat Latina. Why don't she get a job? When we know that Latinas and black folk work like crazy. When given the opportunity, go to a black neighborhood. Go look at the bus stops and ask, why do they go through so much trouble to go to the other side of town? Because business is not in their communities. You don't see business in their communities. So they also have to commute. And they do it. So the fallacies that we hear to give Americans, and that's why I forgive Americans in the aggregate. Because it wants you to hear to keep us divided against each other. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.